Welcome back to This Week. I'm pleased to be joined by Nashville mayoral candidate and District 19 Metro Councilmember Freddie O'Connell. Nice to see you, sir. Congratulations on your candidacy.
Thanks. It's like being congratulated for signing up for a whole lot of work.
I salute everyone who puts their hat in the public arena. You're already in the fight.
Yeah.
You've been in the fight a while.
Yeah.
Why do you want to now become mayor? And maybe more importantly, why do you feel you're the person at this particular time to lead this great city?
Yeah, and those are probably the two most important questions. You know, I've been in the race for just over a year, and it's funny, you work with somebody, but you also have strong beliefs, I think, especially to your point, saluting people who've done this, about what's the right set of priorities to lead the city to a better place. I felt like last year, as we were talking about the State of Metro address and where we were, and it was interesting, we didn't hear a word about the Titan Stadium in that State of Metro address. But I was looking at the investments we were making. We were recovering from COVID. We had large amounts of federal money available, and looking at the strategy for those investments, some of the preparedness for those investments didn't seem to me like we were advancing to the place where Nashville could be a city that we know is growing quickly. And why does it feel like we keep getting further behind in terms of infrastructure, in terms of city services, and it feels like we can do better? So that's the next part. The preparedness I've had is I've been representing the city's most economically important district, not just the city's, the state's most economically important district. I've been at the heart of every important discussion that the city's had for the past 8 years, and sometimes that's crisis. That's 2020, the year of Nashville crisis, was almost all of it had its epicenter in District 19, from the tornado that ripped through just a few blocks from my house to the civil unrest we saw that culminated in City Hall getting set on fire, to the still one of the craziest things I've ever seen happen in Nashville, which was the bombing at the end of the year. And that impacted constituents. That was not just a bunch of historic buildings. It turns out hundreds of my constituents, residents of Nashville, in the footprint of that bombing, lost their homes on Christmas morning. We got a lot of good feedback on the leadership in that moment, but I've also been deeply invested in what makes Metro government effective.
Nashville has so much going for it, but there are issues. There are crime, there's infrastructure, there's issues that need to be addressed. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, for your first term, you can fix or at least improve one particular issue or topic. What would your top priority be?
So you identified there are things that a city must always do, right? So I don't think you'll ever see a mayor who says we're ever going to take our eye off the ball on things like safety. So you've got to build a baseline on safety, you've got to build a baseline on education. But if there's a thing that we're looking to change, where we've been coming up short, in my estimation, that's the thing that has set us apart from other major American cities, and that's our lack of a transit system.
Does it have to be a conjoined transit system? What I mean by that, incorporating counties and all the bedroom communities where folks live? Can it be just a Nashville transit system, a combination, state, federal money? It's a big project, a lot of moving parts.
It is, and you've hit it, right? It is. We have to have a local transit system that works for people in the city. As a mayor, that's the thing we know we have some control over. One of the best lessons that I got was partnering with Mayor Carl Dean, on whose board of the Transit Authority I served and chaired eventually, and set up our first ever long-range strategic plan. Well, the good news is we have a great set of partnerships with counties and cities around Middle Tennessee. Mayor Dean and I traveled to Denver with a bunch of other civic leaders in 2008. It's hard to believe it's been 15 years ago, but we came back and we watched Mayor Dean lead the cause to bring those city and county the folks that govern those areas together on the cause of regionalism and transit. It's what worked in Denver. We set up a regional transit alliance to talk about transportation needs in the region. That's still going to be effective going forward. It's Nashville will be a part of that, might even be a leader in that effort. But yes, the mayor of Nashville is going to have to be invested in that.
Our conversation with Metro Councilmember, District 19 Councilmember and mayoral candidate Freddie O'Connell continues in a moment. Stay with us this week, but we'll be right back. Welcome back to This Week and my conversation with Nashville mayoral candidate Freddie O'Connell. You touched on this a little bit, the importance of partnerships and getting along with folks. How do you repair the damage done with the state of Tennessee and Metro government in regards to keeping the mayor's authority intact, keeping the Metro Council authority intact, keeping the city's authority intact. To be a successful mayor, you have to have those relationships. How do you rebuild that burned bridge?
It's going to be really challenging, and I guess the good news for me is, on an individual level, I haven't been burning bridges. I don't spend my time on social media dunking on Republican legislators, and I know there is a lot of conflict that comes from that, right? I've really tried to focus my energy on successful offline relationships, and that's worked pretty well. I met directly with Governor Lee's senior advisors about the Republican National Convention. I've met with Lieutenant Governor McNally and Speaker Sexton both, just to make sure that they knew. I mean, I'm governing their footprint where they spend a lot of time in the Cordell Hull building and the part of the city that I represent. I think it's important that they have the opportunity to know that I'm representing my constituents who are also Tennesseans, and those have been very good, productive conversations. They weren't spiteful, they weren't anything incendiary. They were really good conversations. I expect those to continue. I also, though, know that the state of Tennessee is the one bearing down on us. Nobody in Nashville is going around the rest of the state saying you need to live like Nashvillians have chosen to live, and I think there's going to be some balance of priorities where we're saying yes, we are Tennesseans, and we're expecting to have the opportunity to govern ourselves.
As new mayor, you will implement the stadium deal. It's a done deal.
Right.
You voted against the stadium project.
I did.
Is it because you didn't feel it was actually a better deal than the previous deal, or is it more of, I don't really believe public money should be in this kind of stadium, and if in 5 years from now MLB comes and Major League Baseball comes and wants a stadium, would that also be the same kind of, what's the argument that you had against it?
Yeah, I'm not an absolutist on just about anything under the sun. I try to look at everything that we get and say, well, let's look at the pros, let's look at the cons. We knew we had a bad lease, and I think, Bob, what happened was we started with the conversation where the Titans approached me and some other council members, and this is going back about 18 months, and they said, hey, we've got a package of upgrades, and it's going to be about $600 million, and we'd like to ask the city to participate at about 50%. Well, that's a really interesting conversation. Now, somehow it went past that, and we got to a pretty startling initial cost of construction. We knew there was going to be some state participation. That's our money too. We're Tennesseans, so when they say it's a gift from the state, well, it's especially not a gift when they then turn around and take over our sports authority in the middle of the, and I think that's part of it is, we watched state encroachment increase as we were starting to do something we knew the state wanted. The state specifically wanted an enclosed stadium for tourism dollars. We heard that over and over again. And I think this is, again, the question of priorities. I wanted to make sure as we go forward into this next chapter of building Nashville's future that we are focused on the concerns of our residents, because that is what I'm hearing over and over again. Challenges to cost of living, challenges of cost of life. Now, we can look at the deal, and I had plenty of reasons to say that climb from the initial conversation to the end, where we've encumbered $4 billion of taxpayer money over the next 4 years. I had some challenges with it. But I will say, I think Mayor Cooper got it right in thinking about the vision for the East Bank. And that is what the next mayor is going to have to do. And I want to make sure that the things that the mayor ensured were in that East Bank vision are the things that actually get implemented. That is aggressive affordable housing targets. That is connectivity from the East Bank into East Nashville and coming across the river, right? That is really important things we have to get right on public land.
The new state funding formula for education effectively will give metro schools less money. It just will. And when every student leaves, less money comes to the district because the money now follows the student. As mayor, how do you keep the majority school system valid, growing, improving, and valid?
Yeah, and you've hit on something that we know. The state is going to continue to attack our ability to locally fund our public schools, whether it is through the change to the state funding formula, whether it is the education savings account, the voucher program that they foisted on the cities that said loudest, we don't want this, or whether it's state authorized charter schools that the local school board did not approve. Those three angles of attack on our public funding are one of the biggest risks we're going to face. Mayor Cooper did another important thing. He set a new high water mark for having us have the best paid teachers in the state of Tennessee. I think that's something that the mayor needs to stay committed to. I'll say two things. As mayor, I will be one of the very few candidates whose children are only in our traditional public schools. I've got skin in the game. That's a big deal. We see the daily fights of working families because we are a working family with children in public schools. Whether that's aftercare, whether that's high school start times, we see it, we live it, we know the progress we need to make. The other piece is the part of the way we invest in this is we're going to have to continue to make the case for why a great city school system matters to a city of our size. And we're watching our school-age population grow. We're watching enrollment fall. As mayor, it's going to be my job to invite people back in to experience the success we know that's present and to still address the challenges we know that are present.
National mayoral candidate. Freddie O'Connell, appreciate your time and your insights.
Glad to be here. Thanks
Stay
for
with
having
us.
me,
This
Bob.
week continues in a moment.